scared to death of speaking in public, so if I don't pass out, it'll be amazing. I was asked to speak to you guys for just a moment to give you a small witness. So just let me tell you who I am first. My name is Kim Lawry. I'm from O'Fallon, Missouri, at Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary Parish. And I am a convert to the faith. I came in through RCIA in 2001, but I didn't really have any clue what the Catholic Church was about. In 2014, I did a Marian consecration through 33 Days to Morning Glory, which is Father Gately's program. And when Mary got a hold of me, my life completely changed. So after going through all of those programs, I joined something called the Marian Missionaries of Divine Mercy, and I go around giving those programs. And I only bring that up because it goes along with part of my witness. So about a year ago, I was starting to notice that I had lack of energy to do anything. And I was having a lot of pain in the evenings, especially on my legs. And I was having a lot of problems with balance, blood sugar, blood pressure, just a lot of things that I had not had trouble with before. I always had tons and tons of energy. I was always the person that if two events didn't line up at the exact same moment, if there was 10 minutes between them, I would be at both. So when this started happening, I knew something was really, really wrong. And so I went to a doctor. And of course, I went to several doctors before anybody could figure out what was wrong with me. And finally, I was told that I had adrenal insufficiency, which is also known as Addison's disease. Essentially, my adrenal glands were no longer working. They weren't producing the cortisol, which is involved in homeostasis. So in order for your body to maintain a homeostasis, your adrenal glands produce certain hormones that your body needs in order to regulate those processes. And my body was no longer doing that properly. So throughout this year that I've been suffering with Addison's disease, many days, most people don't realize this, many days I was actually bedridden. I did learn many things, and I think God used this to bless me in many, many ways. I first off learned that I am not what I do, and so I'd like you guys to realize that also. You are not the activities that you do. You are not the evangelization that you get to do. That's not who you are. You are a child of God. And I think God really used this illness for me to teach me that I just needed to learn to be still. Also taught me a lot about redemptive suffering. At the same time I was suffering from this, I learned of a 12-year-old girl at our parish who had the desire to go to a traditional Catholic school, and she didn't fit well in the regular secular school, or even some of the new modern age Catholic schools with all of their computers and everything. It just really wasn't a good fit for her. And unfortunately, something happened, and she wasn't able to go. And I saw her suffer through that. And forgive me, that really hurts my heart. But I saw her suffer through that, and I saw a 12-year-old suffer better with that than I did with this. And my heart went out to her. And so I started offering some of my suffering to her. Last month, I came on retreat here. Right before the retreat started, I came in, and I've been here a few times before, but I had totally forgotten about Father Ricky's crucifix. But for some reason or other, when I came in, I saw it, and I said in my head, if only I could touch that, I would be healed. And after I said it, I thought, well, that's really weird. That'll never happen. I would never ask in a million years to be able to touch it anyway. That's just not who I am. I'm kind of a quiet person. So I sat in the back right over there, as close as I could get to it. And during the retreat, at some point, Vanessa came over and took it out of the relic box, or reliquary that it's in there. I watched her do it, and I'm watching, and I'm going, where is she taking that? Doesn't she realize I'm sitting here because I want to be close to it, because I feel like if I could only touch it, I'd be healed. And she gave it to Anne, and I'm watching this, and I'm going, what's going on? Well, this was the first retreat that I had been at where we were allowed to venerate a relic at the end of the retreat. And although that wasn't the intended relic that was going to be used, it ended up being the relic that was going to be used. In between there, I got a phone call from that little girl from our parish telling me that God had moved mountains and she was going to get to go to that classic school. So that just really warmed my heart. Then I get to venerate this, and I just feel like that was Jesus telling me, I'll heal you. And so I went to Anne afterwards and I asked for prayers of thanksgiving, because I really felt like that was Jesus saying, I'm going to heal you. You can have this. You've learned things. I can use you. I'm going to give you this. So about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I got my test results back, and I no longer have Addison's. So praise God, miracles still happen here. Father Ricky is still working up there in heaven and assessing for people. And the reason I mentioned the 12-year-old girl is simply because if you remember the Bible story, the gospel story about the woman with the hemorrhages, the one who could touch the fringes and she would be healed, that's what came to my mind when I saw it. But on either side of that gospel story is the story of the 12-year-old girl who died and was brought back to life. And I know my friend did not die. She suffered something, a lot of people suffer through. But to hear her voice on the phone telling me that she got to go was like she was brought back to life for me. And that gospel story is important to me because it also turns out it was the gospel story used for my husband's grandmother, who passed away right before I got this diagnosis. And she was a person who always, she was homebound for probably the last 15, 20 years of her life. She always had the priest from her parish come to her house. She always wanted to know who to pray for, and she always prayed, especially for my son. I have one son who has autism, and she was always intercessory praying for him. And at her funeral, shortly before I got this diagnosis, that was the gospel that was used. It was picked by the priest. And so there's so many threads woven through there that go along with this miracle healing that I was allowed to experience and just be blessed by. And such a connection to my husband's grandmother, and to this 12-year-old girl whose mother happens to be standing in the back. So just thank you for taking the moment to listen to me. Just wanted to share that.